Girl cries at her father's coffin and says he's still active. When cops opened it, they freaked out. The church was silent except for the soft sobs of a young girl kneeling beside a polished wooden coffin. 12-year-old Emily clutched her father's favorite flannel shirt, the one he wore on every family hike, now pressed to her face as tears soaked through the fabric. Mourners whispered prayers behind her, but she couldn't hear them. She could only hear his voice, strong, kind, always full of life. "Dad's not gone," she whispered fiercely, barely audible. "He's still active. I know it." The adults exchanged sorrowful glances, thinking grief had blurred her sense of reality. But Emily's trembling voice carried more than pain, it carried certainty. Her father, James Hart, had been a volunteer paramedic in a small Midwestern town. The kind of man who left birthday dinners to answer distress calls, who gave his boots to the homeless in snowstorms, who once pulled a stranger from a burning car with his bare hands. Everyone loved James. His heart, they said, was too big for this world. When he collapsed during a routine rescue mission, doctors declared it a massive cardiac arrest. He was pronounced dead that night. But Emily refused to accept it. Just days before the funeral, she'd gone to the funeral home for one final goodbye. Alone in the viewing room, she'd felt something strange, his hand, still faintly warm. "I told them," she cried now through her tears. "Daddy's not gone, please." Her words caught the attention of a nearby police officer, Officer Reynolds, a longtime friend of the family. He approached gently. "Sweetheart, I know this is hard," he said, kneeling beside her. "But sometimes our hearts play tricks when we're hurting." "No," she said with unusual calm. "Check the coffin. Please. Right now." He hesitated. Then something in her eyes, pure, unwavering, made him pause. With a nod, he called over the funeral director and quietly requested the coffin be reopened. The lid creaked open. And then the air shifted. James's chest moved. Barely. A whisper of breath, almost imperceptible, but enough. Officer Reynolds staggered back. "He's breathing," he shouted. Chaos erupted. EMTs rushed in, and within moments, James was being lifted into an ambulance, still alive, though his pulse was faint and his body weak. Doctors later discovered that James had suffered from a rare condition called catalepsy, where the body can mimic death in extreme states. Had it not been for Emily's desperate belief, and refusal to let go, he would have been buried alive. News spread quickly, turning a local tragedy into a national miracle. "Girl saves father from coffin," blared headlines across the country. But what the world didn't see were the quiet moments in the hospital room days later. Emily gently feeding her father applesauce, his hand barely holding hers, tears falling silently between them. "I heard you," James whispered one night, his voice raspy but full of wonder. "You kept calling me back." Emily smiled, eyes brimming. "I knew you weren't done helping people, Dad." And she was right. Within months, James recovered. But the experience changed him. He started a foundation to support overlooked medical conditions, naming it Second Breath. The foundation provided medical training in rural communities, ensuring what happened to him wouldn't happen to others. At the first fundraiser gala, James stood with Emily at his side. "I came back," he said to the audience, "because my daughter believed in something no one else did. She reminded me that love doesn't end when the heart stops. Sometimes, it's love that keeps it going." The room fell silent, tears rolling down more than a few cheeks. Emily's small act of faith, her insistence to be heard, had saved a life. And through that life, saved many more. In a world that often rushes past pain, her voice stood still, held strong, and changed everything. And so, when people ask her how she knew, Emily simply says, "Love listens deeper than fear." If someone's still meant to shine, your heart will hear it before anyone else. Because sometimes, the loudest miracles begin with a quiet voice that refuses to give up.